Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a fascinating plunge into a book that, well, it certainly promises some interesting insights.
Mm.
Funinbed.com's Top 100 Lovemaking Techniques of All Time, published back in 2001.
Top 100. Yeah, when you shared this, my first thought was, okay, we have to unpack that. It definitely sparks a lot of curiosity. What made the cut, right?
Absolutely. And for you listening, you brought this to us clearly. You've got a thirst for knowledge, even in the more intimate areas of life.
Definitely.
And this book, it really covers a wide spectrum, from very gentle, sensual stuff to, well, much more playful interactions, techniques for everyone involved.
And what's interesting, I think, is that 100 techniques, I mean, that sounds kind of overwhelming, doesn't it?
It really does.
So our mission here really is to be your guides. We'll dive into this collection, pull out the surprising bits, the really interesting ideas, the things that might just make you think, huh, okay, that's different.
Yeah, consider this your shortcut. You get the essence without wading through all 100 yourself.
Exactly.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, it feels important to highlight some of the core ideas, the stuff the book presents right at the start. It's not just a list of moves, is it?
No, not at all. Right there in the read this first section, they put this huge emphasis on respect.
Okay.
It actually states pretty clearly that respect is the most vital element in the bedroom. Like, even more important than any specific technique.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it really underscores, being attuned to your partner's boundaries, their desires, what they're comfortable with.
That feels so crucial, doesn't it? It talks about respecting when someone isn't ready to try something new,
Mm-hmm.
and it stresses how patience and that mutual respect create a much more comfortable, more open atmosphere.
Exactly. And it's not just about respecting a no,
Yeah.
right? It sort of implies that when a partner feels truly respected, they're probably much more likely to feel safe, maybe more open to exploring later on. It's about building that foundation of trust.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the book also frames these techniques not as strict rules, but more like starting points,
Yeah.
encouraging imagination.
Yes, that's another really key takeaway. It emphasizes there isn't like one single right or wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about personal preference. These techniques are meant to spark your own ideas, really, not to be followed rigidly step by step.
Which takes a lot of pressure off, I think.
Totally.
It becomes more about finding out together, what actually resonates with you and your partner.
Yeah, mutual discovery.
And it doesn't just focus on the bedroom itself either, does it? The preface mentions something else that seems equally important.
It does, yeah. The preface highlights how important showing love and affection outside of sexual moments really is. The book suggests that expressing love in those non-sexual ways actually reduces pressure around intimacy. It helps foster a more relaxed, more enjoyable environment when you are intimate.
Ah, so those everyday acts of affection really lay the groundwork then.
Seems like it, yeah. That's the idea presented.
Okay, so foundational principles: respect, personalization, connection beyond the bedroom. Got it. Now, let's actually delve into some of these techniques.
Right, the fun stuff.
The book has this whole section, techniques for her pleasure, and yeah, some of them are certainly unexpected. Let's start with the sensory ones. The menthol marinade, number one. That must have made a strong impression.
Well, it definitely grabs your attention right away. All right. The menthol marinade, number
Yeah.
one. It involves using a partially dissolved mentholated cough drop for oral stimulation.
Oh, cough drop, really?
Yeah. The idea is that menthol creates this, interesting hot and cool sensation. The book even suggests trying different flavors to see what your partner likes best.
Wow. Okay, a cough drop. That's definitely not something I'd have immediately thought of. You pop it in your mouth, let it soften a bit, and then, well, yeah.
Mm.
The book specifically mentions focusing on the clitoris and even suggests, blowing on it to kind of reactivate that cool, tingly feeling.
Right, the airflow enhancing the menthol effect.
Now, listening to this, my first thought might be, isn't that maybe a bit intense? What are your thoughts on that? Intensity versus pleasure?
That's a really valid question. What's interesting here is how it plays with that trigeminal nerve, which is super sensitive to temperature changes and, chemicals like menthol.
Okay.
So the initial feeling might be strong, yeah. But that contrast, the hot and cool, plus the airflow, it could create a very unique, maybe very arousing experience for some people.
So communication is key.
Oh, definitely. Experimentation, communication,
Yeah.
finding the right balance would be absolutely essential.
Okay, moving from hot and cold mintiness to just plain cold. Paradise. Number 5. This one sounds like a nod to a certain steamy 80s movie.
You're totally right. The book itself mentions 9-12 weeks. Uh, Parrot ice, number 5, is all about using an ice cube, held in the mouth, gently
Yeah.
gliding it over the body.
Mm.
The technique really focuses on that surprising contrast, cold ice on warm skin.
And a key part seems to be stimulating the nipples with the melted ice, letting a few drops trickle down,
Yeah,
and then using the chilled tongue for oral pleasuring.
exactly. That shift from the broader sensation, the ice on the body, to the focused nipple play, and then onto oral stimulation with the now cool tongue,
Mm.
it creates this really interesting kind of multi-stage sensory journey.
The novelty of the temperature is the main thing there.
Seems to be, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the central element.
Okay, staying in the realm of unexpected edibles, or drinkables, I guess. Mint tulip. Number 7, this brings peppermint schnapps into play. I'm picturing potential stickiness.
Ah, you might be right about that. Mint tulip, number 7, details carefully applying just a small amount of peppermint schnapps to the navel. Then you dip the tip of your tongue into the schnapps and use it to trace circles around the nipples, followed by a gentle breath to sort of accentuate the coolness.
Ah, the blowing again.
Right, and then the schnapps is reapplied to the tongue for oral pleasuring of the vagina, again with gentle blowing.
So it's that combination, the taste and the refreshing, cooling sensation working together. Precision sounds like it would be pretty key here, though, to avoid unintended spills.
Indeed. Yeah, definitely need a steady hand, maybe. But it's another example of taking something common, an everyday item, and repurposing it in a surprising, potentially arousing way.
And the smell, too, maybe.
Yeah, the smell of peppermint could absolutely add another layer to the whole experience.
Then there's seltzergasm.
Mm-hmm.
Number 16, this one sounds particularly fizzy. When I first read this, I thought, wait, really?
That's sarcasm, yeah, number 16. It definitely takes a very unique approach. It involves placing a quarter of an effervescent bicarbonate tablet, and importantly, one without aspirin, on the vaginal lips. Then, a little trickle of water from the mouth activates the tablet, creates thousands of tiny bubbles,
Yeah.
all while you're also doing oral pleasuring.
A bicarbonate tablet, like Alka-Seltzer without the pain reliever. That's certainly not something that usually comes to mind in this context.
Yep.
The book even makes a little joke, doesn't it? Referencing that old slogan, oh, what a relief it is.
It definitely has a sense of humor. But the core idea here is that very unusual tingling sensation, the effervescence on a very sensitive area.
Yeah.
It's all about introducing a totally new type of physical stimulation.
Okay, so we've had menthol, ice, schnapps, and fizzy tablets.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some of the more uniquely methodical techniques for her pleasure. Chinese field goal, number 14, definitely stands out. I had to reread that one.
Chinese field goal, yeah, number 14.
Yeah.
It's certainly memorable. It describes using a pair of chopsticks, like the ones from takeout,
Mm-hmm.
placed along the outer vaginal lips to create what it actually calls goalposts.
Hobo.
Yeah. Then the tongue acts as the football for oral pleasuring, and the aim is to score between these chopstick goalposts.
Wow. Okay. I'm trying to picture this. It sounds like it might require a certain dexterity, both with the chopsticks and the tongue.
Seems likely, yes.
Mm.
And the book does have a little warning in there about splinters if you use wooden ones.
Right. Safety first, obviously.
Absolutely. Safety is paramount.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating about this technique, I think,
Mm.
is the gamification of oral sex,
Yeah.
turning it into this playful activity with a defined goal. It introduces an element of lightheartedness, maybe a different kind of focus,
Yeah.
less about pure sensation, maybe more about interactive fen.
Interesting. Then there's the Dutch drawbridge, number 10. This one's a position and the name. Yeah, it paints a pretty vivid picture.
The Dutch drawbridge, right, number 10. It describes a position where one partner sits up in bed, legs extended straight out, making a base. The other partner then kneels facing them, straddling their thighs,
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly leans all the way back until their head is resting on the seated partner's legs, or maybe even their ankles, like lowering a drawbridge.
Ah, I see.
And the book emphasizes the heightened stimulation of the top portion of the vagina in this position because of the angle.
So it's a specific angle and maybe deeper penetration potential that make this one unique. It sounds like it offers a different point of contact, different pressure.
Exactly. The positioning really changes the angle of entry and can definitely target different nerve endings. That could lead to varied, maybe more intense sensations in that specific area.
And maybe the receiving partner feels more open.
Yeah, that supported reclined position could also contribute to a feeling of openness and relaxation. Good point.
Showergasm number 13 is another one. Sounds straightforward, but the details are interesting.
Right, showergasm number 13. It details using a handheld shower massager aimed at the clitoris. But the key here is combining that pulsating water massage with manual caressing,
Oh,
using the other hand on the inner thighs and the bikini line at the same time. And the book stresses starting the massager further away, then gradually moving closer to find the right pressure.
so it's not just blasting water.
Yeah.
It's more nuanced. Using the water as one tool, but also adding touch in other erogenous zones.
Precisely. It's about layering different kinds of stimulation simultaneously for a potentially more intense, more multifaceted experience.
Makes sense. And finally, in this section for her, we have The Vineyard's Mist, number 49. This takes things outdoors and involves wine.
Hmm.
When I read this, I thought, no, that's memorable.
Vineyard's Mist. Yeah, number 49, it's certainly evocative. It outlines an outdoor technique using a new, clean spray bottle filled with sweet wine.
A new one, important detail.
Very important. You lightly mist the wine over the body, then follow with kissing and licking the wine off, eventually culminating with the vaginal area.
Mm-hmm.
The book does emphasize finding a very secluded and private spot for this one, obviously.
Right. The sweetness of the wine, the cool mist on the skin, then licking it off. It creates a really rich sensory experience. And yeah, that reminder about a new spray bottle, no cleaning products, absolutely crucial. Safety first, even when adventurous.
Absolute paramount. Safety, always top priority. But yeah, the idea of incorporating an edible liquid applied in this playful way, it definitely adds a unique sensual dimension to outdoor intimacy.
Okay, so we've explored some pretty unique, inventive ways for her pleasure. Now let's flip the script. Let's look at techniques for his pleasure. Some of these are equally creative.
Oh, yeah.
The Passion Peach, number 51, sounds rather fruity.
The Passion Peach, yes, number 51. It involves preparing a ripe peach, carefully cutting a circle through it, removing the core, basically creating a sort of edible sleeve.
Okay. A peach sleeve.
Yeah. This peach sleeve is then gently slid over the penis, and oral sex is performed while you're also simultaneously squeezing and rotating the peach.
Ah.
The idea is that the added gentle friction and the natural flow of the peach juice enhance the sensation.
So it's like a textured, naturally flavored glove for the penis during oral. The book mentions the juice trickling down. That sounds like it could add a very interesting, maybe slightly messy sensation.
Indeed, it combines tactile and gustatory elements.
Yeah.
Taste and touch, creates a novel experience for the receiving partner, and maybe the natural sugars have a subtle effect too.
Could be. Then we have Magic Shellacio, 53. This one uses frozen dessert topping. When I read this, I thought, wow, that's dedication.
Magic Shellacio, number 53.
Yeah?
It's quite an elaborate undertaking. It involves creating a chilled chocolate shell
Oh.
by coating a frozen water balloon with that hard shell ice cream topping.
Oh, wait.
Yep. Once the shell hardens completely, you carefully drain the water balloon away, and you're left with this chocolate shell,
Okay.
which is then used to encase the penis during oral sex.
A frozen chocolate shell.
Yeah.
That's definitely a commitment to pleasure. The temperature contrast must be pretty intense.
Hmm.
As someone listening, I'd wonder about the practicality, maybe, but the novelty factor is definitely high.
For sure. The book highlights that surprising chilling sensation and the unique feeling of being, like, encased during oral stimulation. And, yeah, the effort involved.
Yeah.
It does suggest a real dedication to experimentation, maybe a sense of fun in the prep itself.
Could be part of the appeal. Okay, the Frozen Jewels, number 58. Much more direct temperature play here, focusing on a very sensitive area. This sounds like it could be quite intense.
Yeah, the Frozen Jewels, number 58, details carefully applying ice cubes to the testicles, specifically at the moment of orgasm during oral sex.
Right at the moment.
Explicitly, yes. The book states it should happen at climax for the intended effect of intensifying the pleasure.
It does sound like it could be a very intense, maybe even shocking sensation. Definitely something to approach with very clear communication. And enthusiastic consent, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Temperature play on the genitals needs really careful consideration, open dialogue. Make sure it is pleasurable, doesn't cross into discomfort or, even harm.
Communication is key, knowing if and when to stop. Okay. We also have maximum altoitude, number 73. Back to Mintz, but for him this time and differently.
Maximum altoitude, number 73, describes using a partially dissolved mint in the mouth during oral sex, but with frequent pauses to blow a cool stream of air over the penis.
Ah, the blowing again.
Yep. It's the intentional contrast warmth of the mouth, then the sudden cool sensation of the air that's meant to enhance sensitivity.
So temperature variation again, but using air this time for the cooling sounds maybe more subtle, but still potentially quite stimulating.
Precisely. That intermittent cooling could definitely create a tingling or a heightened sensitivity, make the overall experience more intense.
And finally, in this section, the blueberry swirl, number 91, another fruity encounter.
The blueberry swirl, yes, number 91, explains an oral sex technique involving holding a few frozen blueberries in the mouth.
Frozen ones.
Yes. And then using the tongue to move them around the head of the penis during oral stimulation. The cold temperature and the slightly bumpy texture of the berries are the key things here.
Frozen blueberries. Sounds like it would add an interesting mix. Cold temperature, subtle, almost ticklish sensation, maybe.
Hmm.
The book has a little aside, doesn't it? Suggesting buying them in bulk for this purpose.
Huh. The book's playful tone definitely comes through there. But yes, the combination of cold and that slight texture could indeed create a unique, maybe unexpected sensation.
Okay, so we've hit some direct, sensory, and novel techniques for both partners. Now let's look at some more playful, interactive methods. Again, focusing on his pleasure for these examples. The one-fingered parrot, 65. Sounds less like a technique, more like a game.
The one-fingered parrot, 65, yeah, it's definitely presented as a game. One partner lies comfortably between the other's legs and just presents an index finger.
Just the finger.
Just the finger.
Yeah.
Then, whatever the partner does to that finger,
Mm.
a gentle kiss, a light lick, maybe a playful nibble, the first partner immediately mirrors that exact same action on their own penis.
That's such a clever way, almost intuitive, to explore what your partner enjoys. It kind of bypasses awkward verbal requests, forces this direct interaction and mirroring. Could be very revealing and fun.
Totally. The book even mentions that the initial giggles, maybe occasional confusion, often lead to the best, most pleasurable results.
The element of surprise, gentle discovery, that seems key here.
Absolutely. It encourages nonverbal communication and lighthearted experimentation in a very direct, playful way. It's like a fantastic exercise in learning each other's unspoken preferences.
The Concord Catapult, 78, also sounds incredibly playful.
Yeah.
And involves grapes. Again, this book likes fruit.
It really does.
Ah.
The Concord Catapult 78 is wonderfully silly. The partner with the erect penis uses their index finger to gently hold a grape against the underside of the shaft near the base.
Okay.
Then with a quick flick in the finger, they launch the grape towards the other partner's mouth for them to try and catch.
Launching grapes.
Yes. The goal is to catch 3 grapes successfully, after which oral sex begins, with the caught grape still in the catcher's mouth.
That's absolutely fantastic. The mental image launching grapes from a penis is just inherently funny.
Right.
And then incorporating them into oral sex adds another layer. Playful interaction, a bit unexpected. The book notes it might take a few tries to get the aim right.
Which just adds to the potential for shared laughter, doesn't it?
Totally. Builds the fun.
Yeah, that shared laughter, the slightly absurd nature of it, it can really enhance intimacy, creates a relaxed, joyful atmosphere. And then using the grapes adds that unique texture, maybe a slightly sweet element to the oral sex.
Okay, finally, name that nipple, number 92. This turns intimacy into a full-on game show. I can just picture the dramatic music.
Name that nipple, 92. Yeah, very theatrical. The clothed partner, though, specifically braless, the book points out,
Important detail.
rubs different flavored candies on their nipples. While the other partner is blindfolded and tries to guess the flavor,
Okay.
correct guesses are rewarded with, well, the unclothed partner. Incorrect guesses, according to the book's playful description, lead to a lovely parting gift of instant soup mix.
Instant soup. That is
Right.
brilliant. This is pure playful teasing, building anticipation. The game show announcer voice idea, the blindfold, the silly consolation prize. It's all about injecting humor into foreplay.
Exactly. It uses taste and touch, combined with that playful, competitive element. Makes it multisensory, very engaging. And the reward system adds clear, fun motivation for the guesser.
Now, before we wrap up, it feels really important to quickly circle back to that safety note, the one mentioned right at the beginning in the Read This First section, especially with some techniques using edible items or other household things.
Absolutely crucial, yes. The book does explicitly advise, stop immediately if there's any technique with ingestible objects where there's even a slight risk of swallowing them.
Right.
And it also strongly cautions against trying any of these if either partner is under the influence of alcohol or any other controlled substances. That could really impair judgment and coordination.
So a really important reminder, always prioritize safety. Be mindful even when you're exploring more adventurous ideas.
Precisely. A bit of common sense goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Even when aiming for new and exciting experiences.
So as we come up for air after this deep dive into funinbed.com, what are some of the key things that really stand out to you for our listener?
Well, a few things, I think. Firstly, the book's initial and consistent emphasis on those foundational principles, respect, open communication, the importance of intimacy beyond the bedroom. That's really crucial context for approaching any of these specific ideas.
Definitely sets the stage.
Yeah. And secondly, just the sheer variety and, inventiveness across these 100 techniques is pretty remarkable. The book definitely lives up to its top 100 claim in terms of just the broad range of suggestions.
It certainly shows how intimacy can be approached with, well, a sense of playfulness, a focus on different senses, using elements you might never have considered.
Exactly. And while, yeah, some of the techniques we discussed might seem a little outlandish at first glance, the underlying principle often seems to revolve around either heightening sensory awareness in unexpected ways or simply introducing novelty, breaking out of routine, sparking new pleasure and connection for both people.
And that recurring theme of using common household items, food,
Yeah.
in surprising ways is pretty notable too.
Very much so.
And we've really only scratched the surface, haven't we? We touched on maybe, what, 15, 20 of them out of 100? Highlights how much is packed into this one book.
It does, which kind of leads to a final thought for you, our listener. Consider how maybe you could incorporate even a small element of novelty, a touch of playfulness perhaps, or a heightened awareness of the senses, maybe inspired by some of the less uh, extreme techniques we talked about today. How might you bring that into your own intimate experiences? Think about how these ideas could potentially open up new, maybe exciting conversations with your partner about desires, about boundaries, about the possibilities for shared pleasure. The whole realm of intimacy is just incredibly vast, isn't it? And sometimes just a little bit of curiosity, a willingness to experiment, maybe that can go a long way in deepening connection.